In 2017, Scottie Pippen said this about LeBron.
You were able to beat this Warriors team, or is he already surpassed Kobe?
I don't think he's surpassed Kobe at all, no. And I don't think he should be compared to either of those players.
In 2018, when Scottie was asked about the moment he carried Jordan off the court during his infamous flu game, he responded,
"You basically carrying him off the floor. What was? Tell me
Well,
what
it was
felt
easy.
like."
You know, he carried me for like 11 seasons.
In 2019, he once again reiterated his thoughts on LeBron.
When I look at LeBron, he's not what Michael was as a player. LeBron doesn't have that gene.
So Scottie,
That's not in him.
right.
But then, in 2021, when Scottie released his memoir, there was an excerpt in the book that shocked the entire basketball world. And certainly something that we did not expect Scottie to say. It was this: "I may go as far as to say Mike ruined basketball. Kids wanted to be like Mike. Well, Mike didn't want to pass, didn't want to rebound or defend the best player. He wanted everything done for him. That's why I always believed LeBron James was the greatest player this game has ever seen. He does everything and embodies what the game is truly about." Fast forward to 2023, and Scottie would once again put MJ on blast.
I seen Michael Jordan play before I came to play with the Bulls. He's a horrible player. He was horrible to play with. He was all one-on-one. He's shooting bad shots. All of a sudden, we become a team and we start winning. Everybody forgot who he was.
One must wonder, how did Scottie change his opinion in the span of just a few years? What happened between 2019 and 2021 that caused him to develop this tumultuous animosity towards his former teammates? Well, as you might know, The Last Dance came out in 2020, a docuseries retelling the events of the late 90s Chicago Bulls, and Scottie did not like the way he or the team was portrayed. He felt like it was just another way to stroke MJ's ego while putting everyone else down, and that the whole series was just focused on him, even though it should have been about the team. Yeah, I guess he was right. But if Scottie has been around MJ for nearly his entire career, he should already know by now what MJ's personality is like. So was this really that big of a surprise? How's it going, folks? My name's Andy, and today let's take a look at how Pippen and Jordan's friendship fell apart over the years, the intricate details of the documentary that severely pissed Scottie off, and how this goes beyond just basketball. If there's one thing you know about MJ is he takes things sometimes a bit too personally. Many of his contemporaries over his career, he has seen his relationship with them fall apart. Another notable one was with Charles Barkley. Back in the day, they were the best of friends. They entered the league together, and for decades, they were best buddies. However, Chuck and MJ are very different people. Chuck has no problem cracking jokes and laughing at jokes at the expense of himself, but MJ is not like that. Back in 2012, when Chuck made a public comment about how Jordan is a bad owner, Jordan called him shortly after hearing that and cussed him out. Since then, they have not talked. In this case with Scottie, however, there's more to the story. It's more than just, oh, the documentary focused too much on Jordan. According to Scottie in his book, Jordan earned $10 million for appearing in the doc, while him and every one of his teammates who appeared in it did not earn a single dime. In addition, if you guys recall, there was a scene in The Last Dance that talked about Scottie's holdout in the 1997-98 season. If you thought the whole Anthony Davis or Ben Simmons thing was bad, this was probably worse. It was about Scottie's contract negotiations. He signed a small, long-term deal several years prior. But because the NBA boomed in popularity, by 1998, Scottie's contract seemed minuscule in comparison to his talent. He was the 6th highest paid player on his own team, earning just $2.7 million a year, even less than Luke Longley. The thing is, he signed a contract and he was obligated to play it out, but he's right to feel like he's getting fleeced. The long-term deal he signed was for job security. He couldn't predict NBA salaries increasing this much this quickly. As a result, the negotiations with the Bulls front office led to a standstill, and during this time when Scottie was sitting out games, he requested a trade and even delayed his foot surgery. Jordan called him selfish because he was putting his own interests over the team's. They needed him out there, but he wasn't playing until his demands were met. This was mentioned in The Last Dance, and in response, Scottie talked about this in an excerpt in his book. Instead, Scottie claimed Jordan was the selfish one when he retired the first time. He announced his retirement shortly before training camp, so the Bulls didn't have time to go out and sign free agents. So Scottie felt MJ was being a hypocrite. Another instance was the 1.8 seconds game. In the 1994 playoffs against the New York Knicks, Game 3, this was during Jordan's retirement, so he wasn't there. In the final 1.8 seconds of that game, Scottie expected to get the final shot, but instead, Phil Jackson drew up a play for Tony Kukoc, who was a rookie at the time. The play was a success as Kukoc made the shot and the Bulls won the game. Scottie, though, was so upset that he didn't get the last shot, so he refused to go into the game to help set up the final play, nor did he celebrate when they won. Before The Last Dance came out, Scottie told MJ he didn't want this play to be in the documentary, because this was a moment of his career that he acted childish and didn't want people to know about this. Scottie didn't want this to be broadcasted to a large public audience. It's on Netflix after all. While MJ didn't produce this documentary himself, he had full creative control over it, so he could have left out this scene if he wanted to, but he kept it in. Scottie was pissed when he saw this, and he asked him about it a few months later. He didn't say much other than to apologize and acknowledge that if it were him, he too would be upset. I didn't press any further. I knew it would do no good. He claimed this was another example of MJ and the producers trying to make his teammates look worse. Honestly, Scottie wasn't just criticizing MJ. In his book, he was basically taking shots at everybody. He said Charles Barkley didn't have the work ethic to win the championship. He said Isaiah Thomas was one of the dirtiest players he's ever played against. He said Phil Jackson was racist and preferred Tony Kukoc over him during Jordan's brief retirement. Scottie even went as far as to say that him and Jordan were never close friends and that it was just the media painting it that way because they were iconic teammates for so long. And this might be the most absurd quote of all time. Scottie said, "I've seen Michael Jordan play before I came to play with the Bulls. He was a horrible player. He was horrible to play with. He was all one-on-one. He was shooting bad shots, and all of a sudden, we become a team and we start winning." To make matters worse, Scottie and his ex-wife Larsa went through quite the messy divorce. The divorce proceedings lasted over 3 years until it was finalized in 2021. Afterwards, Larsa started dating Marcus Jordan, Michael's son. This added even more fuel to the fire for Scottie. Not only was his hatred for Michael at an all-time high, but now his son is about to marry his ex-wife? Can you imagine that? Now, we know Scottie was underpaid for most of his NBA career, so when it comes to money, it's a sensitive topic for him. When the divorce between him and Larsa was finalized, Larsa was entitled to 50% of all of Scottie's retirement funds, including his 401k account with the Chicago Bulls. It doesn't help that he also lost a significant chunk of his money due to a shady financial advisor. Over the years, Scottie was forced to sell most of his belongings, including his house and his private jet. So if you look at this whole situation from his perspective, to see MJ call you selfish for wanting more money back in 1998, especially when the Bulls' payroll looked like this? I mean, it is ridiculous. I see where Scottie's coming from. I can see why he resents him. In the context of his life now, he's lost the bulk of his NBA earnings. So it must sting to hear stuff on TV like that, to hear you being labeled as selfish and presented in a bad light. In recent times, we've seen Scottie voice his support for LeBron and saying that Bron is the greatest of all time while simultaneously bashing Jordan. Does he really believe that? Or is that just because of his personal resentment towards Jordan? It's not a coincidence that Scottie changed his opinion after The Last Dance came out. At one point, Scottie even called Jordan personally and told him how upset he was with how he and everyone else was portrayed, to which Mike simply responded, "I can see why you're upset." At the end of the day, the two of them went through so much together in their careers. When you think of the greatest duos of all time, Shaq and Kobe, Magic and Kareem, and of course, Michael and Scottie. It's sad to see their relationship fell apart and to hear Scottie talk about MJ in a completely opposite manner compared to just a few years ago. It's unfortunate. Do you think in the future they'll reconcile at some point? Thank you all so much for watching. I hope y'all enjoyed the video, and of course, as always, I'll see you next time. Peace.